What is going on, everybody? The Jaguars lose to the Raiders today, and we will get into all that. But first, want to give a big shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this video. Look, guys, this game was actually a pick 'em. You don't really see that too often, and I really thought the Jaguars were going to win, so I did put some money on the Jaguars to win, but luckily I did lose. I just thought that the Raiders were just too bad of a team for the Jaguars to be able to lose to, but the Jaguars did wind up losing, so the Jaguars improve in the draft, and all of that is good stuff if you are on Team Tank. But want to give a big shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this video. Lots of cool different spreads coming up, whether you want to bet on some of the Christmas games or the next round of the college football playoffs. All that is for you guys if you guys want to use promo code YouTube150. It's going to get you a 150% deposit bonus. So with all that said, we're going to go ahead and recap this game. Today, we will be talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars. We will be recapping this Jaguars-Raiders game where the Jaguars traveled to Vegas and lost to the Raiders 19-14. And look, I know a lot of people sit here and look and say, okay, the Jaguars lost. That kind of stinks. But let me show you guys something. I'm gonna go ahead and present some on my screen. This game is not about winning and losing. It's about this. It's about Tankathon. And it looks like the Jaguars now are drafting number 3 overall. The New England Patriots are drafting right before us, but the Raiders were sitting here at this number 2 spot, and then they dropped to number 6. But one thing we'll have to see is what strength the schedule does. I'm not so sure exactly when it comes to like when strength of schedule gets updated. Of course, the tiebreaker is strength of schedule. The weaker strength of schedule is actually the tiebreaker, and that actually moves up. So right now, New England is over us. But man, if the Jaguars had won this, they would have been at best. If we actually look at Tankathon, we would have been sitting at number 7. So this was quite the swing. And Raiders dropped to number 6. And I will say, if you're a Raiders fan, I think you wanted to lose this game a lot more than maybe Jaguar fans did, because Raiders are trying to get a quarterback. Raiders are trying to get a quarterback, and the Jaguars at least feel like they have a quarterback. I know a lot can be said about Trevor Lawrence, but I will say, even if you're the biggest Trevor Lawrence hater, I think you understand that we are in a lot better position than the Raiders are at quarterback. And the Raiders may have missed their shot at potentially getting one of the top 2 guys, because you want to get in this top 2 area. Right now, New England will be able to trade back and gather a lot of good assets if they were to, potentially stay there at number 2. Hopefully they can win a game, and hopefully the Jaguars can lose out. Next week, the Jaguars play the Tennessee Titans, which will be big. Obviously, draft number 3 and 4. That'll be a big game for the Tank. And hopefully the Jaguars can hold on. And, the Tennessee Titans are another team that are looking for a quarterback. So it would be nice if they would be able to win, improve their draft position, and get further and further away. Because I know a lot of us think about this in a vacuum and say, oh, the Jaguars don't need a quarterback. We think solely about the Jaguars. But we all know that the Tennessee Titans do need a quarterback. Wouldn't it be nice to knock them back a little bit to where if they were to get a quarterback, they would have to trade a lot of draft capital up to move up and get it? I know a lot of people just think on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. I'm thinking long-term, okay? I'm thinking long-term, and this was a good loss long-term. And I will say, if the Jaguars do finish out 1-1, that would mean that the Jaguars would at least sweep the Titans or the Colts. The Jaguars, while their record is terrible, 3-12, the Jaguars are 2-2 against the AFC South. So if they beat the Titans, hey, we can at least say we swept the Titans, right? If they beat the Colts, we can at least say, hey, we swept the Colts. If we can go 2-0, then we would sweep 2 division opponents while also going 3-12, or we'll go in 5-12. Now, for me, I don't really like to brag about games between crap teams, but I guess that's kind of where we are. But much ado about the draft. Let's go ahead and talk about this actual game that went on today. So the Jaguars traveled to Las Vegas. Unfortunately, the Jaguars did lose a good amount of starters, which we'll get into later. But it was definitely an interesting game. The Jaguars at halftime were down 13-7. The Jaguars in the second half, their lone touchdown came off of a 62-yard catch and run by Brian Thomas Jr. on a broken coverage. But the Jaguars offensively were just not good. Only 2 touchdowns scored. One of those touchdowns came when the Jaguars got the ball at the 29-yard line. Mac Jones completed one catch, and the Jaguars were basically gifted the ball at the 1-yard line by the refs by a penalty. That was definitely a penalty, but Jags got the ball first and goal at the 1. Took them 3 times running in for a touchdown. That was one of them. And also, the Jaguars got another touchdown from a complete broken coverage. So those were the Jaguars' 2 touchdowns of the game. The Jaguar and Mac Jones did not have his best game. Now, this is another guy kind of reminds me of Minshew, where the box score doesn't look that bad. I mean, Mac Jones on a day, 25 of 39, 247 yards passing, 1 touchdown to 0 interceptions. But he missed a lot early, and he wasn't great this game. Like I said, it just feels like his stats are a little bit inflated. Definitely not it's a good box score game for him. I mean, 0 interceptions, but he definitely didn't put the Jaguars in a position to win this game. Rushing the ball, Tank Bigsby, 12 carries for 50 yards and 1 touchdown. And also Travis Etienne, 9 carries for 22 yards. A little bit underwhelming game for them. Etienne had a long run of 12. Tank Bigsby had a long run of 10. So it wasn't very explosive, wasn't very many big plays. But Brian Thomas Jr., his 3rd 100-yard game of the season. This guy's an absolute beast. And also, shout out to him. He is now a 1,000-yard receiver. He is now first in Jaguars franchise history in all these different categories. Most rookie receptions, most rookie receiving yards, most rookie touchdowns. Like I said, defeated Justin Blackmon in all those territories, and he gets his first 1,000-yard reception, 1,000-yard receiving yard season for the Jaguars. So that's awesome, and hopefully he can start stacking them. Hopefully we look back and he has a Mike Evans type of career where every single year he's having 1,000 yards. So yeah, big shout out to him. The Jaguars will go into this offseason, and we're going to have to do a lot of evaluating. We're going to have to figure out, how good are the Jaguars at defensive end? How good is Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker on the edge? The Jaguars have invested a lot in linebacker. How good actually are they at that position? Is Tyson Campbell a cornerback 1? Is he a cornerback 2? What do the Jaguars do at the interior of the offensive line? There's going to be a lot of questions around this team. But one question the Jaguars will not have is, what will the Jaguars do for their wide receiver 1? That answer, that's pretty answered. Brian Thomas Jr. is a beast. He did have a drop catch this game, but it actually wouldn't have counted. But he does have stuff to improve on, route running, all that stuff. But man, he is a star, and he is having a great season, a better season than Marvin Harrison Jr., better season than Roma Dunze, a couple other first-round picks. You can argue Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors has more receptions than him, we're talking about receivers, but Brock Bowers at tight end having an incredible year, but that's a different position, And I will say Brock Bowers, shout out to him. He helped us in the tank. And also, guys, Brock Bowers was pretty high on the Colts draft list per a lot of reports, and the Raiders sniped him from the Colts. So thank God that the Raiders got Brock Bowers, and the Colts wound up with Latu, which I don't think Latu's making much of an impact. Of course, he's just a rookie. And, being a defensive end, it's kind of hard to get up there and stack numbers at times, especially when there's not a lot of talent there when you're kind of the focal point. But, yeah, I'm glad Brock Bowers is not in the AFC South. I'll just say that. So with this one, you go down the list. Like I said, Brian Thomas Jr., 9 receptions, 132 yards, and 1 touchdown. Had another touchdown. 9 total touchdowns on the year for Brian Thomas Jr. Hopefully we can get him 1 more in the next 2 games so we can be at that double-digit mark, but that's an exciting part of the season. Our other 2 leading receivers, Parker Washington, 6 receptions for 54 yards. Also, Britton Strange, only 2 receptions for 22 yards. Man, if you actually look at these numbers, not a lot of, Brian Thomas Jr. and Parker Washington combined for 186 yards, but outside of that, Strange 22 yards, ETN 15 yards receiving, and then a bunch of players under 10 yards receiving. Farrell, Dearness Johnson, Jaguar. So, that's one thing if you actually, because, I look at the box scores after all these games, and, when you see Trevor playing quarterback, it seems like a lot more players are kind of on the stat sheet. Mac Jones just kind of seems to lock in on certain guys, and that's just how he is. But hey, he's a backup quarterback. I can't complain too much about Mac Jones. It's just, what it is. Unfortunately, Trevor is hurt, but yeah, and Mac Jones is out here, but is what it is, right? Defensively, I do want to give a big shout out to Jaguars second round pick Mason Smith. He had himself a really good game. If we actually look at the stat sheet, let me find him real quick. Mason Smith, 2 tackles, 1 assisted tackle. He had himself 1 sack as well. He had a couple tackles for losses too. He had a really good game, a PBU as well. I thought Mason Smith, this was probably his most impressive game. He even drew a holding call as well. Of course, it's been a weird season for Mason Smith. Early on, he was like a healthy scratch. Then all of a sudden, an ankle injury popped up. We're like, what is going on with this guy? But he needs snaps, and he's finally getting snaps after we've been begging him for it for so long. But I just want to give a shout out to him. Really, really good game from him in that aspect. Also, Foye Luakin, 6 tackles on this game. Devin Lloyd had 5 tackles. I don't know. Devin Lloyd, disappointing year. I mean, the season's wrapping up. We were all hoping for that big third-year push. There was a lot of hype from him before this offseason that finally he's going to break through. His potential is going to be seen. But I don't know. He just looks big. And nowadays, if I hear reports that so-and-so player has put on 10, 15 pounds of muscle, I think it's an automatic red flag because putting on muscle makes these guys a lot slower. And I don't know. He's just not very good for us right now. But knowing us, his contract will be up. He'll go to the Ravens and be incredible. I mean, Kayvon Chason was all over the field today. And then when he was on the Jaguars, there were times where I'm like, Kayvon Chason actually played today. He was I've never seen a player take more meaningful snaps from anybody than Kayvon Chason. But he's out there, after having short stints with the Carolina Panthers and the Seattle Seahawks. Now he's with the Raiders, and, he's having himself a good season. I mean, he had himself a sack today. Had himself what probably should have been an interception if the call on the field was an interception. But yeah, he's having himself a pretty good season with the Raiders. Also some guys, Eric Armstead got his first sack since week 1 against the Miami Dolphins. Disappointing signing, but I think he even had 2 offside penalties in a row. Just a weird signing. And look, he has a big dead cap hit number next year, so he'll be on the Jaguars again next year. So now it's just time to figure out, like, hey, have a talk, whoever's going to be running this team next year, and say, hey, we're moving you back inside. I'm sorry, big boy. You're in your 30s. I know you want to try something else out, spice up your NFL career a little bit, but you're so much better inside. And, like, do you want to help this team win? Yes, sir. Okay, you're moving inside. You're moving inside, buddy. So that's the game from him. And some other guys, Devon Hamilton credited with 3 tackles, Jarian Jones 4 tackles on the day. Monteric Brown had some good plays, of course, had some bad plays. Brock Bowers just pretty much ate us alive. Josh Hines Allen, another kind of disappearing from the stat sheet. 0 tackles, 2 assisted tackles, not just very many pressures. Another week. Josh Hines Allen wasn't really present last week, and he definitely wasn't present today. Trayvon Walker had himself 3 tackles, but kind of quiet on that end. Cam Little, 2 for 2 on extra points. Logan Cook, not a very good game from him punting wise, but it was good for the tank. We can say that. So if we go to Las Vegas, Aiden O'Connell, kind of identical to Mac Jones. I mean, Mac Jones was out here 25 of 39. Aiden O'Connell was 24 of 38. Mac Jones had 247 yards passing. Aiden O'Connell had 257. Aiden O'Connell, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Mac Jones did throw in 1 touchdown, so that's pretty good. But overall, the guy that was killing us was Brock Bowers, 1 yard shy of a 1,000-yard gain. So I believe now it looks like after this game, even though Brock Bowers killed it, Brian Thomas Jr. is now beating him in rookies on receiving yards. So hopefully Brian Thomas, we have more games like this. Brian Thomas Jr. goes over 100 yards passing or catching, receiving, and we still lose games. So the disappointing thing from this game, though, was, like I say, with these games, it's not about wins and losses, but I want to see young players perform. Unfortunately, 2 fumbles from 2 second-year players, Brenton Strange and Tank Bigsby, both fumbled, which definitely it actually didn't happen. Like, nothing happened after that. The Raiders didn't really do much with it. I believe both of them, one of them basically caused a 3-and-out. The other one caused a missed field goal. So not much really happened out of that. But Yeah, you don't want to see, of all players, I'd rather see Dearness Johnson fumble. I'd rather see Jaguar fumble. Don't want to see these guys, but is what it is, right? Hopefully they can learn from it and do better next time. But if you go through the Raiders rushing stats, I mean, Jaguars were kind of locking down the run game. Abdullah and Madison combined for 19 carries for 65 yards. Aiden O'Connell, 7 carries for 12 yards. So that was that. Locking down the receivers pretty well, but Brock Bowers, 11 reception, 99 yards. That guy, like I said earlier, I mean, I spoke a bunch about him. He is a beast. He's going to be a problem in this league, and he's probably going to end the season with the best rookie tight end numbers of all time in the NFL. I mean, if you go back, it's like CBS is putting a graphic on. It was like Kyle Pitts and Mike Ditka. Those are the guys that they're in conversations with. So pretty big on that standpoint. So when we go to team stats, Raiders held the ball for 34 minutes, Jaguars 26 minutes. At the end of the game, I mean, Raiders really bled the clock down a bunch, and the Jaguars just couldn't really do much. But overall, when we talk about injury-wise, not a good game injury-wise. We had both of our tackles go down, Anton Harrison and Walker Little. Neither of them returned. It looked like Walker Little was an ankle. I don't know what Anton Harrison's was. It looked like maybe a shoulder injury. And if it was a shoulder injury, he had a shoulder injury last season that he played through and actually required surgery. So I don't know exactly what it was, but it was something along the lines of that. Also 21 first downs for the Raiders, 15 for the Jaguars. Not really too much to say on this wise, but we also talk about injuries. Jarian Jones went down for a little bit. I believe he came back in. Tyson Campbell went down. He came back in. Savage was being evaluated for concussion. There were guys just pretty much dropping all over the place. So lots to be said about that. So with all that said, I always do like to see what Twitter and or X has to say about this. So we can go ahead and pull up here, see what Jags fans are saying. Brian Thomas Jr. would go fourth in a redraft. Yeah, that would be an interesting thing. If there was a redraft, would Brian Thomas Jr. be drafted ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr.? I believe he would be drafted ahead of Rome Odunze. But is he drafted ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr.? Is he drafted in front of Malik Neighbors? I don't know. You really don't know. Raiders says, when you find out the Raiders beat the Jaguars and don't have the number 1 pick in the draft anymore. Yeah, that's like I was saying earlier, the Raiders dropped from pick number 1 to pick number 6, and they need a quarterback. That is rough, man. That is rough. There's no possible way this football team will run this back in 2025. No way. My brother in Christ has been at this for 30 years. This is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Updated post-Patriots. Jaguars to select 3rd in the NFL draft after losing 12th game to the Raiders. There we go. And New England's fighting. New England almost defeated the Bills. So, they have at least one game against a bad opponent left. I don't know what the Patriots' upcoming schedule is, but actually, why don't we check that? Because we can go ahead and check. So let's see. The Giants are ahead of us. Let's see what the Giants have left. The Giants in the season have the Colts and Eagles. So they are definitely not beating the Eagles. Maybe the Colts, but I don't know. The Giants are very bad. They got beat 34-7 against Atlanta, and Atlanta's not very good. When we look at the Patriots upcoming have the Chargers. Ooh, they have the Bills again. Oh, no. Yeah, we're probably not jumping the Patriots. We gotta hope for maybe strength of schedule helps us out there. But yeah, the way they played the Bills, maybe if the Bills sit some guys, but I do think that they will be. Let's see what the Bills record is. Bills are 12-3, and I believe the Chiefs only have 1 loss. So maybe they can sit. I don't know. We're too far away from that. But yeah, the Patriots will likely lose out. So I don't think we're going to get any help there. So we just got to hope strength of schedule boosts us up, because that number 2 pick in a draft where it seems like that Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward will be the 2 top quarterbacks. That number 2 pick will be very, very valuable. The Raiders win over the Jaguars. could have dramatic repercussions. The Giants now control their own destiny for the number 1 overall pick. Las Vegas has 3 losses. New York Giants have 2. Giants lose out and they get the top pick. Yes. The Jaguars were back. Hunt for Travis Hunter is still alive. Yep. So if quarterbacks go 1 and 2, the Jaguars will have their choice of the best non-quarterback if they don't want to trade back. Updated NFL draft order. New York Giants clear favorites for number 1 pick. Yeah, so just a lot of talk about that. I want to look up, how about this? BTJ, because we're getting all the same tweets about that. BTJ 1K. BTJ is the only reason I still have the will to exist. Per Next Gen Stats, 88 of Brian Thomas Jr.'s 105 receiving yards versus the Jets came after the catch. Okay, this is 8 hours ago, though. Let's see. How about Brian Thomas Jr.? So here's a good one. I'm going to pause this because I don't want to get copyrighted. Last 3 rookies that hit 1,000 plus receiving yards and 8 plus receiving touchdowns. A.J. Brown in 2019, Jamar Chase in 2021, and Brian Thomas Jr. in 2024. So definitely some good company. Brian Thomas Jr. is the first wide receiver from the 2024 class to hit 1K. That's from Bleacher Report Gridiron. So let's go, man. That's good. That's a good season. I don't think Brian Thomas Jr. has missed a game. Brian Thomas Jr. equals phenom. Look, this is what CBS was putting up. First in receiving yards, first in receptions, and first in receiving touchdowns. This is Jaguars rookie franchise record, so that's awesome. Brian Thomas Jr., 73 receptions, 1,088 yards, 9 touchdowns, 14.9 average. Yeah, so he's last 2 games, 100-yard games. He is an absolute beast, and hopefully he keeps having good games, and the Jaguars keep on losing. Yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. is him. He's got that dog in him. Brian Thomas Jr. in the loss, 9 receptions, 131 yards, 1 touchdown. Yes, we went over that. So now I'm interested to see. Let's see how Raiders fans are feeling about this one. And by the way, like it's weird if you're Jaguar fans right now because we're just waiting for something to happen because the Jaguars, are one of these teams that we know that Doug Peterson's going to be gone. It's just win, Saints fired Dennis Allen. Jets fired both head coach Robert Saleh and GM Joe Douglas. Who else fired a guy? I'm having a brain fart right now. But yeah, we've had a lot of firings. We've had 3 firings. I don't know why I can't think of the last. Oh yeah, the Bears fired Matt Eberflus after that terrible performance. Raiders fans who thought they were getting Shadur Sanders by losing out. Yeah, that's tough. Raiders win 1 step closer to Shadur. So this MJ guy, he's a Titans fan. So that's what I'm saying, guys. We have the Titans next week. We have to be able to lose to the Titans so they drop back and they don't get their quarterback of the future, and we can sit there watching us lose our draft pick. Yeah. There's no bigger Raiders fan than me for the next 3 hours, and this is a Giants fan. So yeah, Giants fans really, really happy about this because they just went from number 2 to number 1 overall. Raiders won a game and went from number 1 to number 5 picking a draft. I would be furious if I were a Raiders fan. That's the vibes right now. That's the vibes. So not much really going on Twitter right now. So we go ahead and preview the next couple of games to the Jaguars and kind of what's at stake. First of all, Christmas is on Wednesday. So Merry Christmas to everybody. If you don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you have a day off and can enjoy your Wednesday. I know it's a weird day, but hey, there's football on Wednesday. We got 2 football games, so that'll be fun. So the Jaguars finish up with the Titans and Colts. At home against the Titans and then at Indianapolis. So with this one, the Jaguars will hopefully, I hope they lose out. If not, one cool thing is that if the Jaguars go 1-1, then we sweep one of these teams. If the Jaguars go 2-0, then we sweep both the Titans and Colts. So that's cool, but hopefully the Jaguars lose and hold on. Hopefully something happens strength of schedule-wise. Hey, maybe the Patriots can go out here and win something because, they're battling every game pretty tight, But I'm hoping that the Jaguars can at least get the number 2 pick. And then if the Jaguars get the number 2 pick, then I think they have some real options to trade back, and then maybe we're not in a 2-year rebuild. Maybe we can get some stuff, and then we can make some impacts next year with hopefully Ben Johnson or hopefully Liam Cohen or maybe even Mike Vrabel, somebody that can change the Jaguars culture and really get the best out of some of these players. And that is the recap for this game. Want to give another shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this video. On your way out, guys, please drop a like. I also want to wish you guys all a very Merry Christmas and go Jags.